Another type of diversity that you're going to come across, I've already mentioned, is different learning styles. So some learners are going to be kinesthetic learners. Some learners learn best through reading, some through writing, some are visual learners. Now, it's very important that when we look at styles of learning and styles of studying, that we don't put learners too far into their boxes. For one thing, learners are able to learn in any way. A learner who is inclined towards learning through writing is fully able to learn in a visual manner. It just is not as efficient and effective for them. Now, when you design your lessons, and we'll go through this with multimodality later in the course, you want to make sure that you are trying to bring in a couple of different modes, which means a couple of different ways of delivering the material so that different types of learners are likely to be able to engage with the lesson. So, for example, if you're doing a very text-heavy lesson, it's a great idea to throw in a picture. If you're doing a lesson that is quite kinesthetic, it's a great idea to bring in an activity that is based on reading and writing. So those are some of the main types of diversity. As I mentioned before, although it is helpful to understand the different types of diversity, you also need to understand each student is an individual. So you need to be wary of stereotyping. Now, let's look at some of the ways in which diversity is going to affect you in the classroom. Now, one of the first things is, of course, we talk about understanding colloquialisms. What we're talking about here is you're going to have to watch your language. You're going to need to make sure that the language that you use and the examples that you use are not too culturally specific. Now, an example of understanding how culture affects the way the learners will respond to the material is, of course, in Macbeth, the play opens with three witches. Now, different cultures have different concepts and different cultural references to witchcraft. So you are going to have to be careful to explain what type of witchcraft we are talking about when we talk about the witchcraft in Macbeth. The other thing which we have spoken about is that their ability to comprehend English will vary. And also, this is very important to remember. Learners' reactions to literary texts will vary. So you cannot expect the learners to respond to each text in the same way that you would or in the way that you expect. So you need to be open-minded and you need to expect the unexpected. Some may really actually relate to a character you find quite unrelatable. But this is where the true test of literature comes in, and are they able to actually back up their claims, in which case their claims are valid. So that is also going to have a big effect. Now, learners' academic performance might be impacted due to the language of teaching and learning despite their abilities. What we mean here is just because a learner does not do well in English does not necessarily mean they are struggling academically. The struggle could come not from their academic abilities, but from their ability to understand the language of teaching and learning. That is a very important aspect of diversity to remember. And that brings us to the end of diversity.